Hey everybody, welcome to Comic Book Radio. I am Peter Cimetti, founder and publisher of Alterna Comics for the past 15 years. 15 years. Yeah, that's our anniversary this year. 15th anniversary. Hope you guys are doing well today. It is a Sunday. Hopefully we can kind of keep the show on a light and fun note. Not to say that past episodes aren't light and fun, but sometimes I think people get very caught up in a lot of things going on, and they get emotional and upset. Not to say again that we've had that on the show, but it's a Sunday show. Let's kind of keep it light and fun. So I probably shouldn't encourage venting and complaining, but nonetheless, I think we can still do it in a fun way. I think so. And no, Eric, I am not late. I am here. I saw that. Man, not even here, and I'm getting busted for being late when Eric is early. Eric Housel, a good Eric, the good one, says, howdy, Pete. Looking forward to whatever you got going on today. And Eric McIntyre, you know I love you. You do a great job as a mod. Appreciate you, buddy. See, Silvar Ogres is hoping for more Survivor. Well, this is a last week's Comic Book Radio was it was me testing out music on a stream to be demonetized, of course, and possibly blocked. But we're not doing any of that today because I want to make sure we can get conversations going on in here. And if we have a song that gets played and then it has to get, because last week what happened with the draw stream, I'll tell my story linearly. So if we have a song that gets played and then we have to block it out, we have to take that song out, and that audio that happens during that time has to get removed. So if there's a conversation going on as that audio is played and there's a strike on the show and the show has to come down and get blocked, we have to remove that audio, and it could remove a vital part of a conversation. I think every conversation we have on here is vital. So that's why we don't play the music during the talking part of the show. The draw stream, that's when I'm going to have music and things like that, because honestly, it's just me talking. And if something I say gets blocked out or removed, similar to what happened on the draw stream that we did, was an AC/DC song got played. I thought it was okay because the previous stream didn't get shut down, but that one did. It got blocked worldwide. So we had to remove the song and then it could be played again. I don't care about the monetization of that type of thing. I don't care. That's fine. It was more about having the stream stay up. So I want to make sure with these that we don't have the music and stuff like that. So that's a rather long explanation for you. Sorry, Silvar. Shane O'Sullivan says, hi all. Peter, quick question for you. When's the next time you got portfolio review video? I think you're talking about the feedback forum, right? Well, you could still do that today if you'd like. Comic Book Radio is one of those things where there's no agenda, there's no nothing. You guys can come on here, you can complain, vent, promote, comment about something, ask a question about something. It's kind of like a hodgepodge mix of Open Mic Monday feedback forum and then a bunch of other stuff too. But the next official feedback forum would be during the day, first Wednesday of June. For me, that's the 2nd, probably at like 1 o'clock. So Eastern time. So if you can make that, great. If not, that's fine too. Hopefully you can make another one. I would have done one. We do 2 a month. I just can't do 2 this month, unfortunately. There's too much going on here. I want to make sure that we're getting caught up. Today's show would probably about maybe an hour and a half or so. Usually Comic Book Radio shows last a little bit longer than that, but we'll see. So yeah, here we go. Okay. So Eric says, I'm just getting out of my system now. Yeah. Calling the late early. And you were wrong. You were wrong, Eric. Beampad, how's it going? We got Past Master Dan in there. Razmaz says, what's up? Haven't you heard your car warranty is dangerous? You're getting that too? I'm getting a bunch of those also. Look at that. Our shared experiences. have formed tighter bonds of friendship. I get at least like 3 or 4 of those a week. It's funny. They go straight to voicemail. Metatron's Cube says the music stream was fun, to be honest. Yeah, I think every now and then I'll put something like that up. You guys did seem to enjoy that when I want to try some new, songs out and this and that for draw streams. What I really want to do too is I also want to have indie comic, well, not indie comic musicians. Jeez, I'm so used to saying indie and then comic. Indie musicians, indie bands. I want to see if I can canvas anybody, or maybe you guys are musicians. I don't know. Maybe you guys know people. Maybe you guys are musicians. I want to see about getting their music onto the draw streams too. And this way it's kind of like, I get to listen to something new also. And so do you guys. And it gives them also some, I hate using the word exposure, but it does give them some play to a new batch of people. And we'll give them proper promotion in terms of linking up anything they want to link up and have their music played throughout the draw stream. I think that could be kind of fun. So again, if you guys are musicians, if you're watching the show, maybe even later on, you're not watching it live, but if you're a musician, again, contact me. Either reach out at Peter Simeti on Twitter or send an email to publishingpete@gmail.com. And then this way we could probably get your music played on the show. Again, as long as you're not going to copyright strike and block the show. I don't care about the demonetization stuff. I don't care about that. That's fine. It's more about I want to make sure the show can still remain intact. Let's see. Infinity says that you're having Tyler Wetland on the channel at 4 o'clock today. It says tune in, everyone, if you can. All right. Yeah, the show will be done by then, too. So, go over to the Infinity Comics show and listen to that interview. Check it out. Past Master Dan says Pete is the elbow slam of Comicsgate. Coming in with the flying elbow. All right. So I think we got a couple of things to talk about today, but we also have some people waiting in the wing, waiting to talk to us about what they have on their mind. All right. So let's see here. What do we have? Let's get to this first guest. Our very first guest, of course, will be Maurice. What's up, Maurice?
Hello, Pete. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. I was on your show a few weeks back promoting my Kickstarter for Clan of the Devil, and there's 4 days, I think, left. But actually, I wanted to shoot you like an impossible to answer question. If you were in my shoes with all your publishing experience and time in the comic book world, what would you do? Because, I have 1,200-page issues of my series that are done. They're being colored. They're all drawn, inked, all lettered. They're just waiting for the color. And of course, my first issue is out. I printed it, but the sales have been mostly friends and family. And of course, for my next issues, the big question is, okay, what do? I can't really do big print runs to bring the price down and et cetera, et cetera. If you were in my shoes with all your experience, what would you do?
Well, you gotta do what you can do. I mean, if it's print on demand, if you can do a larger run, that's great because you can get a lot of savings from that. And you'll have stock for future campaigns and just in general to sell. But, if you can't do that and you have to stick to print on demand, you could do that. I mean, we did that for the first 2 years of Alterna. There's nothing wrong with it.
Meaning print on demand is just whatever amount you were selling, you were just printing those.
How many issues are you thinking that you need?
Meaning for the next one, just how many copies that I'd need for the buyers? Well,
yeah, just overall in your mind, you're like, you have a number, I want to print 200. I want to print 500. I want to print 50.
Well, yeah, I'm right now. I mean, there's only about, there'll only be probably close to 100 sales for book one for the moment. But so it's hard to predict, what would be needed for future issues. But the thing with print on demand usually is, the cost per copy, of course, will be relatively high, so you end up
once you get to printing like 300 copies or so of print on demand, you're better doing 1,000 offset. So even though you're sitting on a lot more copies, you'll also have the copies there for future issues. Because you said you're going to continue the series, so you're going to make more issues.
Well, I mean, the only thing I was wondering is if I should not, print and have like, boxes of overstock for the next ones, meaning either just sell PDFs for
talking to the wrong guy in terms of not wanting to have boxes around.
Yeah, but you've been doing this you've made it work for yourself, Yeah. I could do this. I could do, maybe 2% of that if I just
turn them into, don't think of it as boxes of comics that you're getting. Think of it as the brand new table you just purchased, or the lamp stand, or the new bed, or the new sofa.
Yeah,
put some pillows on there, and now all of a sudden 10 or 12 boxes becomes a sofa, sleeper sofa, an ottoman. If you've got pets, you could have a cat tree and just put, pillows around there and a drape. And then as the issues in the boxes sell, that's how it goes. And you get rid of your furniture. But as far as what you want to do, it sounds like, okay, so you want to print like 100 issues. Well, how many pages are in the?
Well, each book is around 110 pages roughly.
Oh, so it's okay. It's a big book. Okay, so I mean, you're going to be looking at a really high unit cost then with print on demand. So you're not talking about just even a 40, 30 pager or whatever. I would definitely say get printing quotes. Don't be afraid to search for a printer and get printing samples and get quotes.
Yeah, in my city, unfortunately, I'm in Montreal, and there was nothing like what you have with newsprint options. We have nothing left in newsprint. I was looking all over, and there was nothing. And my cost per copy in like even an offset was still pretty high, even for my first book. Even if I
even for doing like 1,000 of the book.
Yeah, it was still pretty high per unit. But the thing is, so I've already have my place pretty filled up with issue 1. But it was just a general question. I know it's almost impossible to answer, but it was just the whole thing of people were saying, well, why don't you look for a publisher and do this? And then watching your interviews of all your experience, and even now that you've left sort of Diamond and are just selling directly to your customers and stuff like that, it made me go, well, should I even try to get into Diamond or go to one of the indie publishers? Yeah, to go to then get into Diamond.
Yeah. It's personally, at this point, I wouldn't. If I was starting out, especially too right now. I mean, we're not in Diamond right now, but personally, if I was starting out, I would definitely not at all want to go into that kind of thing with any distribution. I would stick to selling direct, building up, and utilizing crowdfunding, because we didn't have any of that when I got started out. It was just kind of very traditional and print on demand, and then hopefully you get distribution, and then you can increase your printing. And like a fool, I had thought, oh, okay, if we can sell 300 to 500 direct, I could easily sell 1,000 to 2,000 through distribution. And no, we pretty much just sold 300 to 500 through distribution as well. Distribution was just like, it was kind of a joke. And the more that it became a question of, okay, how do we increase our footprint and everything else with distribution, the more the distributor was like, well, if you give us money with ads, everything revolved around, well, if you pay us more, then maybe you can sell more. And I'd go, but that only helps you in the end, because you made the money from the ad, and now you make more money from the sales, and now we have to break even further by paying for the ad. It's just, so
it never ends.
It never ends. Yeah, you're just constantly digging yourself out of a hole. So I definitely get where you're coming at with the whole, you don't want to be in distribution and go down that road. And if you can't get with a publisher who has any kind of means or setup or anything else,
well, I mean, there might be a publisher that might be interested, but then it all boils down to the same thing, where if they're doing any deals through Diamond, well, there's the store, Diamond, and this publisher that'll be taking a chunk out of everything. And I mean, again, you've been through all that in a certain way. It just becomes what is. Yeah, it was just basically if you were starting off fresh with what you know now.
Well, have you contacted printers in the U.S. too?
I had contacted a few. I can't remember the names offhand, but they were more expensive than the one here in Montreal, and also just the costs of shipping and back to
Yeah,
through the
that's
border,
always the,
and so that was all cost prohibitive. But yeah. So. No, so it was just basically I thought, oh well, instead of just coming to pitch my project again as I had done, I said, oh, I'll ask, since this was more free,
yeah, you have some
freewheeling
more
as a show.
time. Yeah, it's
I
not
was saying, well,
necessarily. Yeah.
I'll pick your brain, with all your knowledge over the many years, and just see if what your take might be on. Well, if I was in your shoes, here's what I'd do for your with your number two. And
So I'm guessing you've already reached out to like Quebecor and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, they're
So,
kind of expensive. Even when I was looking at a couple of different, when I was getting really desperate about a year and a half ago, I think it was a year and a half ago, I can't remember at this point. And we had parted ways from one of our printers, and we were looking for another printer. And I talked to over 100 of them. I even got desperate enough to talk to a couple from Canada. And you're correct; they're more expensive in Canada than they were with a couple of the ones here. We're using right now the one that I find has the best quality and the best price. But even then, there's still issues. There's still things to work out and everything else. And then the next one that would have the best quality and price, it's just, then you're talking about, well, we have to raise the issue price to maybe like $250. And I'd rather not do that. But if you're in the situation that you're in, I really recommend, try to see if you can go and stick to the print on demand stuff. I mean, it's really tough. I feel for you. It's not as easy as just saying, well, if you just do this or you just print this amount, you'll eventually sell them. And this, I hate,
of course,
I don't want to give advice like that. I hate just in general when people come to me, and you're a very specific question too. Your question was great. So I'm not upset that you asked it, but sometimes people go, Pete, I want to start a publishing company. Where do I get started? What do I do?
Yeah, well, my question is almost as big as that one.
Yours is at least, I want to do this with printing. What do you think is the best road?
Yeah. But
yeah, as far as that, that's the only advice I could give you, is advice that I would take. I don't know if it's going to be helpful for you or not, but I mean, if I was in your position, definitely get your quotes for the print on demand copies you need. If you need, because you need to print 100, correct? Not that you want to print 100.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing 100 for the next issue, meaning because I sold 100
Okay, yeah.
of the first one. So
So
I'm thinking
I would
probably,
say,
yeah,
I would say always keep in mind you want to overprint.
right.
So I would say at least you want to have 300.
Yeah. The main question was even to print at all. I mean, that was even a bigger question, in the sense that if I just sold PDFs, even if, because here's the thing.
I'll ask, I'm not a fan of that whatsoever, but I'll ask the chat. Would you guys, and this is a crowdfunding thing, right?
Right.
That you're talking about. So everyone in the chat, would you rather crowdfund Maurice's book as a printed book? Even if it maybe was like $5 more, how much is it right now?
The number one?
Yeah. How much are you selling it for?
I was selling it for, it's $25.
25 bucks. Okay.
Yeah.
So even if, and it's a 110 page book.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, okay. So let's say it's a 110 page book for the next one too. Is that correct? Like around there, is it going to be over 100 pages?
Yeah. They're all over 110
okay.
pages. Yeah.
So, if the next book was 100 something pages and that was like 30 even, just so you could print the book, I think people would much rather, before I take a look at the chat, because I think I know what they're going to say, but I think they would much rather pay $30, let's say, for that printed book than even like $10 or $5 for the PDF.
No, I totally understand that. It was more in the sense that if the cost per copy to print on demand, just a few copies, came to almost the same amount that, imagine it would cost $20 per copy for me to print only such a small quantity. well, then all the work to even just do that and to show, it becomes like, well, if I'm selling just a PDF, even at a ridiculously low price, at least I don't have to do anything. It's all just going. So it was just, yeah, but I know most people prefer a hard copy, of course.
Well, you still have production costs, don't you, of making the book?
Oh, of course, that's all in a money pit that is gone.
I hear you. But that's the thing is that this whole thing, and I feel where you're coming from, because again, that was my frustration for the 12 years we were in distribution, was everything felt like a money pit, not just for myself, but for the creators too. And for the first time ever in the past year, it feels like it's a good opportunity for myself and the creators here to actually finally start not just having a money pit of like, well, there goes a couple $1,000 towards making the comic, but at least I made one. But it actually feels like now you can say, no, I can actually make money making my comic, make the production cost back and make profit as well. And it's a weird time, but it's also, that's what should be happening. That's what should have been happening the whole time. That's what the system should have been doing for everybody. But with you, I mean, it's and also just to touch base with the chat, no one in the chat likes print books at all. They all hated them. So digital, I guess, is really good for you.
What?
No, this is the complete opposite.
Okay, right. I can't see the chat right now.
Okay, yeah, I was flashing them up before. I thought maybe you would have saw that. Everyone, it was kind of unanimous. Everyone was all about print.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that's the thing, is that don't just because if you could sell and sit there and go, I can sell like 2,000 or 3,000 digital copies at like $5 to $10 a piece, and instead of like doing this whole thing with print, then I really couldn't argue with you. I could say, okay, well, you know what you're doing with that realm. But if you don't think you have 2,000 to 3,000 backers that you could, if you're talking about 100 people that are backing it, and then maybe 150 or so, whatever, for the next one, because you're building up, there's no way on earth you're going to put yourself in such a bad position with that. You'd be much better off still trying to print a more expensive book.
The good news you were saying, that for the money pit, is that all the artists and colorists and everyone who's worked with me on this project, they all got paid. They're all paid up. So
that's the thing, but it's coming out of your pocket, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the only one who's going down.
We don't want to.
But I
feel you with that, man. I do. I feel you with that. So
but I'm the only one who'll captain down with his ship.
Exactly. So and God bless you for it.
No problem.
But that shouldn't be what happens to you or to anyone else that's taking on that kind of endeavor. It shouldn't be about, okay, you made sure everybody else is all taken care of and you're unbelievably screwed, because the more that you keep getting screwed, the more that those people that would work for you, they can no longer work for you, because now you're like, forget it. I can't do this anymore. And the more that kind of thing happens, the more it becomes a situation of eventually they don't get paid anymore either, because there's no people like you to make comics and make a profit off of it, and let alone make your money back. So yeah, make sure that you're really pricing it super affordably. I think you could go easily $35 to $40 for that, especially if you have different combinations in there too, and you can put bundles together. So even consider that kind of a thing. Other than that, I mean,
that's something I know that for certain variant covers and etc., some Indiegogos and Kickstarters charged way over sometimes what you'd think, but for a graphic novel, I thought, since what is the usual cost right now of a DC or Marvel graphic novel, it's usually $20 or something.
I totally hear you. You're trying to be competitive with your pricing. I absolutely get that.
But
and for the first outing or so, when you're new to everybody and you want to get the product to them and make sure that they trust that you can deliver and you're going to do what you say and make a nice project as well. So you want to make sure that your price isn't at a premium yet. So I totally get what you're doing. You're not doing anything wrong. I'm just saying that in terms of as you move forward, really consider that if it's going to become an issue with you choosing whether or not you'd go and print the book or it's just digital.
Yeah. Sure, with the price you charge also for your floppies, it makes it like, my God, 5 like if your floppies are like they're so affordable, that I was thinking, my God, I'm charging like almost 3 times what you're charging for the equivalent number of pages for what you charge of your floppies. So it made it like, it's like
well, don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Don't.
But
Yeah, it's good to again, like, look at it as a price comparison kind of way. Like if you were putting out a 30 pager on newsprint and you were charging $20 a piece, then obviously people are going to go, well, what is this guy doing? Even if you did it for $5, I don't think many people would even, blink an eye about that, because it's a different system there. But in terms of, what you're doing, 100 something pages, you're making a premium product with higher end type paper and this and that, like that's obviously going to cost more. And then with Alterna, as far as us, it's like I'm sending, sometimes 8 to 10 books to the printer, and, we're printing 15 to 20,000 copies overall. So that's why we're getting the costs that we can get. If I was just doing one book, like 500 copies on newsprint, that thing's going to be like $3 a piece. Like in terms of just production costs to print it. So it's going to be like a $6 or $7 comic then, even on newsprint, because it's just not, the economy of scale isn't there. But yeah, I think, just look at your numbers, make sure you're not taking any losses there. And, and it's one thing if you want to say, I got to do what I got to do for the production in terms of making the book, but in terms of printing, make sure you're not losing money just in terms of printing the book. So even if it's like $6 or $7 a piece for print on demand, or for the whatever else it may be,
it would be a lot more than that. I mean,
I hate it.
Man. Seriously, here the quotes I was getting, it would probably cost me almost $20 per copy to do just like 100 copies.
Oh, that's savage. Yeah. What the heck? Ash and Jackal, thank you so much for the $2. His lesson: don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. Man, oh man.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we'll see what happens.
Well, this is one more thing though with you. This is another thing too, that with a lot of creators, I don't think that they get into crowdfunding and then they get honest with their production costs too. I think they go, well, I want to make sure I make the goal, and then that's it. And I know you already had stuff printed on your previous one, but on your next one, if you get your printing quote and you're like quoting out 300 or 500 copies or whatever from somewhere, and you're saying, okay, well, if that's going to cost me, $5,000 or $6,000, and then to ship it's going to be like another $1,000 or $2,000, put your goal to at least cover your printing. I know some projects out there, they put the goal at like $500, and then the whole thing, including production costs, is probably going to cost them like $12,000. And then whether they don't have the readership there yet, whether they don't have the means of promotion yet, whatever it may be, maybe the project just raises $2,000 or $3,000, and then now they're in the hole about $8,000, and they freak the hell out, or they bury themselves in massive amounts of debt right from the start, and it becomes just, they don't know what the hell to do from that point on. So again, don't put yourself completely buried like that. I don't know what your financials look like. I don't know if, maybe you're independently wealthy, and I'm just like talking to someone over here that's got cash to burn.
Yeah, no. I wish.
Well, so it's like, I don't want to tell anyone how to spend their money or what to do with their money. That's why it's very difficult for me when I'm giving advice on these situations on what I should tell someone, because it's also, it could be a bit insulting to them. It could be, telling them what they should do with their life. Even I don't want to do that. I just want to make sure that you're approaching it in a smart way that isn't necessarily, even if you take a hit, it's not going to necessarily bury you.
Well, it's not rose. There's not any rose-colored glasses. I knew, it was going to be a struggle from the get-go. That's for sure. It's just, when you're in a new medium like I am in this one, you're thinking, okay, well, if let's say you would have said, did you look into Facebook ads or stuff like that? You hear different things of what would be the best way to slowly build a comic audience when you're not going through the traditional comic stores and Diamond and etc. to, how to reach more people and how to, It's all, because of course, as you were saying, if you start spending money on ads or et cetera, well, that might just be more money into a pit if it's not really working to get that money back in new readers to compensate for that amount. So it's a big question mark, when you're starting out to, because there's no point in throwing, 500, 1,000, 2,000 bucks into, let's say, Facebook ads if those ads don't bring back twice, 3 times guaranteed that amount in sales. It's like
ads like that, especially, they're usually good for if you have a very targeted base. If you have also people, I mean, internet ads are starting to become more and more of like a big waste of everything, because there's ad blockers and they become white noise to people, and they're not paying attention to them. But the ads and things like that are usually pretty good if you've got some kind of audience base already, because, and what I mean by that is because then if that audience sees it, the ad that's out there, they can actually help get that ad further for you. So they'll reshare it, retweet it, whatever it may be. Tell people about it. So if you take a print ad out, they might see the print ad somewhere and then they'll tell people about it. But again, building that first audience and everything else is so crucial. And I think the best way you could do that is with a newsletter, getting a simple website, just as a main point of just everywhere, a headquarters for yourself and your book.
That's
and and then keep on putting stuff out there. So far, YouTube has been really good for getting any kind of actual interaction, a face-to-face. You get a sense of a creator and what they're like. I think you would do very well on YouTube, unless do you have one already?
Well, no, not a YouTube channel where I chat.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean,
put up my trail. Yeah, I know.
You've got a genuineness about you. You're good with just, you have a good presence. I think the chat would agree too. And I think even your trials and tribulations, as this kind of a thing, this kind of a topic, you could discuss this on your channel. You could discuss whatever on your. I think it'd be very interesting. I think there's a lot of people out there that they're putting up a front. They're putting up this like, I got it all together, I'm doing everything right, don't worry about me. And then behind the scenes, though, everything is crumbling, everything is breaking down. I try to be as transparent as I possibly can with everybody, but there's a lot of up and coming creators that I feel like they don't want to be that transparent, because then it looks like they're in a position of weakness, when if anything, they're actually in the position of showing that they're willing to learn and grow. And customers, especially when they know that you're starting out, if they hear that you've got it all together and that, everything is going to be great. And then when it, push comes to shove and now the project's made and done, and you're like, well, where's the book? What's going on? It's been like 3 years. That's when it becomes an issue. And you get people that do this whole thing where they just leave and they run away and they get scared and they never come back again. So just, be honest with people, be genuine with them, be sincere. And then people will go, okay, you know what? They're having a hard time right now. Well, they've always been honest with me, so they must honestly be having a hard time right now. And things aren't as easy as they thought it would have been, or they didn't expect this or whatever to happen. And as long as, again, you're upfront with people, they'll be cool with it. I think like 99.9% of people will be cool with it. And I think you would do great on YouTube. I really do.
Well, thanks. That's really nice to hear. And I had mentioned that last time when we spoke, that for me, that's why I went all in, is that I never wanted any potential readers to have to wait for anything. Meaning, if I'm selling something, the boxes are ready, the books are there, and I'm going to ship it right away. And that from the get-go was the philosophy I had for all the books in my series, is that, well, they'll be all done. No one will ever have to wait for them. So it wasn't the typical Kickstarter in the sense that the project needs money to get it done. So I went sort of the inverse, of course, which is more danger on me, in the sense that the burden is all on me, but it won't be on any potential readers who would have to wait for, anyone who, like, my campaign is ending in 4 days. Anyone who would order my book, I mean, I have the boxes right there, so the book's right here. So it's like, it'll be shipped out next week, as soon as everything is processed, So that is something that I always felt would be important with anyone who would be interested in spending any money and reading the book, So, But yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah,
Pete.
no problem at all. And before you go, I just saw the link that you put in the private chat. I want to make sure that you at least get to talk about this book for those that have just been spending time with us. They might actually want to hear what this is all about. So what is Clan of the Devil all about?
Clan of the Devil is about the 16th century cannibal clan, this family that lived in a cave and attacked passersby at night and killed them and brought them back to their caves and ate them. So it's
Family friendly.
Yes, so it's very disturbing, very violent, but it's also actually based on many historical facts. And I've been doing research for many years, and it's been quite interesting because it's all linked up with, I even found trial records from the 16th century that are still available in universities and stuff, and I have dialogue that is straight from there, just made that it's easier to understand, but it's almost word for word, and lots of interesting stuff in the story itself. And there's been adaptations of this story in other mediums, like Wes Craven did The Hills Have Eyes, but updated it to the 1970s in like the deserts of Colorado. But there's never been a telling of this story in a period setting, of its original period setting. So basically, it's about King James and his witch hunt, and how Sawney Bean got caught up in that and became a man on the run who turned to cannibalism. So
Have you and I don't know, maybe you did this already, did you put this on Indiegogo yet?
Well, it's on Kickstarter right now. And what do you mean by put it on?
I'm just thinking that because there's so many people that are backing comics on Indiegogo, and also Indiegogo allows you to do a lot of different things to make the page look great too. You can have the images on the perks and whatnot.
Okay.
Maybe you want to also set up an Indiegogo to sell the book too.
Oh, okay.
And then you would reach a whole new audience, and potentially
okay.
an even bigger audience.
Oh, well, I hadn't even thought of that for now, but definitely. That's a good suggestion. I will look into that. If I didn't even know if it would make things more complicated, or because having more than one place to send someone to order, so I didn't think of doing two at the same time. But I guess.
I know Billy Tucci actually did something like that. He's done that a couple of different times, where he's run a Kickstarter and an Indiegogo. A couple other creators have done that kind of thing too, and to much success as well.
Really?
I think at this point, I mean, I'm so done with Kickstarter for many different reasons, and I'm not a fan of like the layout and the design. Like, I'd much rather just stick to Indiegogo with what they're doing. I like their add to cart system too, so you can put add-ons and things like that. But I definitely think, go to Indiegogo, see if you could put something up on there, even if it's something that's very simple and it's just really, the books and things like that.
I think there's even an option to transfer once my campaign on Kickstarter ends to just basically Indiegogo.
If you could do that, then even better.
Yeah, I think there's a way to transfer it, so then orders can come directly from Indiegogo, and where they take a cut and stuff like that. So.
There's a bunch of people in the chat saying how they just really buy from Indiegogo. And then Jasper's saying, Indiegogo, do it. Make all the money. There you go. Yeah.
All of it. Great suggestion. Thank you so much, Pete. It's very appreciated. And so I guess as soon as my campaign ends on Kickstarter, I guess I'll try to find a way to port it over to Indiegogo and reach the people over there who might have not seen the campaign on the other side. So.
And then hopefully you can, because how many books do you have left of the current stock that you already have that you're selling on Kickstarter right now?
Too many, many bunk beds.
An embarrassing amount. Okay.
An embarrassing amount. Right. Why? No, I made a run of 2,500. So my whole place is filled with books. Filled with books.
I get you. Yeah, but that's the thing, is that, you know what? Since you have the books to spare, you can absolutely, you're in a great position right now. You could open up an Indiegogo campaign and continue to sell what you have currently. And hopefully that helps you to sell and keep on growing for that next book. and then you don't really have to worry anymore about, well, do I print that? Do I print this?
Well, for sure, for the first one, there'll be. That's why my initial question was more, well, yeah, well, but what do I do for number two? Because of course, regardless of the costs, it's also just, well, if they're not selling, I mean, to just start stocking even big amounts of book two and then book three, and then you start getting overloaded, and so yeah, it was just basically. It's all part of the bigger questions of how to reach more and more people and see if.
I get you, and it makes it harder sure now too that you don't even have conventions and all that kind of stuff and whatnot, and well, you can't leave, the stupid government, right? I'm sure it's the same way in Canada. You can't even leave just boxes everywhere. They say they're suspicious packages, whatever that means. I mean, just leave them everywhere.
I don't know. What do you mean about that? I have no idea what
I'm making an awful joke.
Okay.
But you can't just take these boxes of books and just leave them on every corner in front of people's homes or buildings.
Right. Okay.
And just write. I mean, especially what's
explosive
so bad?
Content, really.
Or you even just put, I promise this is not a bomb. Just write that on the box. And I don't understand. You're being honest with people.
Yeah, this comic is the bomb, to use an old passé expression. So, all right. Thank you so much for your time. I don't want to take up
no problem at all. Thank you so much, Maurice. And also, everyone's asking if you're on Twitter or Facebook or wherever else you are.
Yeah, I have a Facebook page set up, but I am so not very media savvy and social media savvy. So I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not. But there is a Facebook page. Yeah. So, yeah. Introvert makes comic. No.
Okay. So, you have a website?
I have the website, the clanofthedevil.com website. Yeah.
clanofthedevil.com. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I was going to say, if you said you don't have a website, I'm going to be like, man, Maurice, I wish I had the cojones that you have to go guns blazing at 2,500 copies. Do I have social media? Do I have marketing, promotion? No, but I got balls.
or a few brain cells missing, but yeah. All right, Pete, thank you so much, and have a great rest of show and Sunday. And
all right, thank you so much. All right. All the best of luck to you on your project, man.
Ciao. Bye.
Goodness, I swear, if there was no website, I'm like, he's printed 2,500 copies. He just finding the highest mountain and just jumping. And he's like, I'll figure it out on the way down. Who needs a parachute? Who needs anything? Okay. The lesson of the day is take calculated risks, boys and girls. And this brings me back actually to something I wanted to talk about, just in case we had no other guests on the show. We had one guest, but I think the conversation had went with Maurice a little bit too long for them to stick around or whatever it may be. They can come back at any point in time if they would like, though. Or anybody too. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. Something that I wanted to talk about today was the fact that lately I'm getting a lot of emails, messages. I'm getting a lot of people that are sending me the strangest questions of, how do I do this? And how do I do that? And should I do that? And I'm just thinking, don't, like, a lot of this stuff too is very much like, one of the questions that I'm getting a lot lately is, should I copyright my stuff? How do I copyright my stuff? It's not up to me to decide if you copyright your stuff. It's not up to me to give you advice on how to copyright your stuff. It's not that hard. So if you're struggling with how, if you're struggling with should, there's so many other more difficult decisions to make on this career path, this life path that you've chosen to make this thing. I get messages like that, and I just end up questioning. Show some initiative. I'm questioning, are you applying yourself? Why would you be asking me this? I never asked anyone about anything like that. And if I ever asked anybody questions about stuff like that, in terms of a business decision or in terms of advice. And I really thought, I didn't just ask someone that I thought might know the answer. I asked someone that I also trusted that I thought might know the answer. Someone who I conversed with, who I had a relationship with already, who I had a friendship, a colleague kind of a thing. It wasn't just like, okay, we've had a couple of Twitter exchanges, and then you send me, and I'm getting like a bunch of these every week lately. Simple questions. It's kind of along those lines. Even someone the other day was like, how do I make my own website? I'm like, I get questions like this, and I'm here to answer your questions about Alterna. I'm here to answer your questions about a whole variety of things. I'll give advice all the time. Or even like on this show, if they wanted to even show up and ask the question there, that shows at least some initiative. But it's a very weird thing, I think. Don't do that, guys. Everybody out there, don't do that. I get it, Dale. He says everyone trusts you, Pete. I get it. But and it's not necessarily about trust. It's more about, you want to make sure that you're finding and doing the answers for yourself. You're doing the research. You're applying yourself, and you're fighting your own battles on that level too, because there's a lot of other things. It's only going to get tougher from here. It's very strange. I don't know. But yeah, don't ask questions like that to people that like, first of all, you don't really talk to, you don't really know that well. And then also be very specific with your questions and try to make them pertinent to something that this person actually could answer and help you out in a way that doesn't actually say, hey, your life, yeah, you know what, I should just steer it for you. Because that's a big question that, like I've said before to Maurice, even I get people all the time. How do I start a publishing company? I'd like to be a publisher. I'd see that and I'm like, man, I don't know anything about you. I don't know what your life is like right now. I don't know how to even approach that situation. It's kind of like asking someone, well, what should I do with my life? I'm not that person. I hope you have people that are like that in your life that can help you out. But I mean, so it fills me with all of these questions and emotions in my own mind of just thinking, what's going on? What is going on? People, build those relationships in your life. Like, this is a good question. Alter Man Schnelly says, how do I become as cool as you? Yeah, see, that's a good question though. I don't have the answer for that. You can always kill me and then wear my skin and then, pretend you're me. So basically you could do, what basically every corporate comic creator is doing right now. Is running around in skin suits, making bad impressions. Oh, goodness. But yeah, this kind of stuff. Pete, what should I have for breakfast tomorrow? To me, it feels like that. I love the fact that you guys are having fun with it. But when it's these very serious questions, I'm just like, I hope you guys can figure it out, because I'm not here to figure it out for you. All right. Let's get on to our next guest. Actually, before we do that, let's pause for 30 seconds and take a quick commercial break. We'll be back. All right, we are back with George Peter Gatsis. What's up, George?
That was an awesome follow-up. I'm actually working on that Immortal Mask book. That was great timing. Yeah, I'm here to pull a Tony Danza walk on until you get somebody else to fill in the the airspace.
Okay.
I do have a comic book related question, Peter.
Okay, sure.
How do you get coffee stains out of a book, a vintage book?
You throw it right out. Just throw it out.
Oh, really? Oh,
or you could rip the book out. The page. Just rip it right out. No, it's gone.
Okay. And
the stain is gone.
Yeah, and the same thing would be for hot lava.
If you get hot lava on the book.
Yeah. Same solution.
Well, if you get hot lava on the book, you don't have to worry about the stain anymore. The book is gone.
Well, I still have just a smidgen of it. I have one staple and a few, edges to it. Everything else is a little burnt crisp. There's no point. There's no way to recover that book, is there?
No, I don't think there is a way. You could redraw it though, and from memory, of course, to the best of your ability.
Yeah. Okay. Damn it. Action Comics #1. There it goes.
There it is. Yeah. There it is.
Wow.
Did you seriously want to know how to get like a stain out of the book though?
Well, I was curious because I had.
I wonder if anyone else knows. I have no idea. I've never had that happen, and I've had sometimes maybe water damage on the book, and then it is what it is. But
the only water damage I can actually remember from a book was I was reading the Alex Ross oversized Shazam book, and The Power of Hope, I think it was titled. And there was a scene where he came into the hospital and he was meeting all the children, stuff like that. And then he met one girl who was, terminal. That whole double page, that was tearful. I actually, yeah, I didn't realize I actually cried until I actually flipped the page, and go like, oh, geez, I got to go buy another one.
Oh, you got tears on the actual book?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was such a profound. It was very profound, the way they wrote it, the way the art was together, and all that stuff. And of course, it had some personal meaning because.
Well, I can't make a joke about that, George.
No, there's no joke about this at all. It's just that that's one profound moment where I've actually damaged a book. A lot of us hold comic books in a high standing. So, some of us even buy 2 copies, one to put away and one to read. I didn't understand the concept of the reader's copy until I was in my several hundreds of purchasing books and stuff like that. And then I
was going to say several hundred years. Wow.
Yeah, no, I had maybe a couple hundred books at that time. I was starting my collection, and then I realized this doesn't make sense. I want to read this. I want to open it up, but I don't want to ruin it because everybody keeps talking about, oh, is this mint? Is this mint? All that stuff at the comic book color. Was it the convention and all that stuff? And then somebody said, why don't you just buy 2 of them? And that's when I started buying 2 of certain books that I would definitely one whole put away as a trophy, and I didn't think anything of it other than a trophy, and then the other one would be reading it.
Yeah, the problem for me is I don't really necessarily care too much about condition. Like I'll still bag and board the books just because I find that if you just kind of keep them there, they just get completely destroyed. But the problem with me with reader copies is that if a book is really special to me to the point that I want to make sure I have a copy that's always going to be there, I don't really know until after I read the first one, and then it becomes like a hunt for a good copy of, on eBay or wherever. I definitely wouldn't buy 2 of everything nowadays, unless, of course, if it's an alternate comic, you can do that. And it's actually affordable enough to do that. But as far as anything else goes out there, it's it's tough. Getting out like water and this and that, like if you're talking like the tear stains or anything else, you could try like
just little stains that happen in life. You happen to have the book on the table and you realize, oh, wait a minute, it got stained by the coffee or some water on the table. Or,
the staining is tough. I know that there's like restoration fluid and this and that. I think I forget who mentioned it in the chat, but there's a way you could take the book apart and then you soak it in restoration fluid. That stuff always, whenever I've talked about that with anybody, it just freaks me out. I'm like, you're taking like the whole book apart. It's just that's a recipe for disaster, and then you're putting it in like a fluid. I'm like, to me, you're doing every single thing here that's going to destroy this whole book. And then what happens if nothing works out the way now the whole book is gone. Now there's one little thing or a couple little things that you could have just lived with. But I mean, if anything,
is it even the same staples? From that year.
Yeah. I think just that the book is what it is, and if anything, it's even more special now because it is truly your copy. There was a story that I had met somebody at a signing, and they had told me about when they had met Stan Lee, that he was signing their copy of Fantastic Four #1, and the way that he was signing it, he something caught his hand or something else caught, and he actually tore the cover.
Yeah.
And then he signed it, and like the whole, like it was one of these things that they had the camera, it was zoomed on, and everyone was like, it was like a big gasp that had happened, and then Stan wrote like "oops" or something next to this, and then the guy was just like, this was incredible. He's like, if anyone on earth is going to tear my copy of Fantastic Four, it's going to be Stan Lee. That's great. Like, he could care less that it got torn or damaged or whatever. Because it
was
added
handled by Stan Lee.
Yeah, so just you got a coffee stain on the book. I mean, I know it kind of stinks, but at the same time, it's your book, and that's just the way it is for forever. It's specialer now.
That's true. You mentioned about the hunt. People now hunt by just going online.
I remember just going like comic shopping and going.
Oh my God! Yes.
Boy.
Oh boy, dude.
Oh, those were the days.
Up here in Toronto, like there was 15 comic book stores in our traveling area. Okay, we were in high school, so the most we could do is 15 comic book stores within the reach of public transit, and still get home before the parents knew we were out of the city. And hunting for say a particular book, say John Byrne X-Men, or it's a Fantastic Four before Byrne got his hands into it, stuff like that. That was late 70s, early 80s. It was a real stretch. It really taxed us a lot.
Yeah,
there was a whole bunch of us, a group, if you will, that was going around. But then when one of the guys actually got his driver's license, we all piled into the car, into a station wagon, and we were going from comic book store to comic book store all day. We all pitched in for the gas. We would come in a group of, I think it was like 6 or 7 of us, into the comic book store, and go through the back issues, find everything we wanted, pay for it. We're out the door, and most of the time the owner of the store is looking at, what's going on? Where did you guys come from? Okay, where's you guys going? These guys are great customers. Come back. And we told them, yeah, we're from Toronto. But and it's like,
well, that explains everything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I get it.
And he's going, yeah, come back. I got more stuff. Blah blah. And the hunt was amazing. It was exciting, and especially during the conventions, where we would run to every retailer and say, "Hey, do you have this particular issue? Do you have this? Do you have that? I like you have this issue, but it's damaged, and you're asking for a top price. No, I can't do this. You got to give me something better." And the retailer says, "Okay, how about if I throw in some Daffy Duck books?"
Yeah, you haggle with them, right?
Yeah, you haggle, but the stuff that they would throw in for you to buy is stuff that they couldn't even sell.
Yeah.
And now I'm going like, damn it, I should have got those Karl Barks books.
Yep. They were trying to help you out. You just didn't realize it. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. See, but okay, looks like we got a couple people waiting in the green room.
Excellent.
So George, thank you so much, and I'm sorry that none of us seem to have actual good answers for your question, but I mean, my best answer is learn to live with it and learn to love it.
Well, I'll try to love it. Yes.
All right. Yeah. There you go. Have a good one. All right. We'll be back in 30 seconds. One trailer this time, I promise.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Indie Comics Relay. This is Keith Gleason, the creator of Mighty Mascots and Hero Envy, and of course my main man, Johnny C., my good friend, who's the creator of Sartana and Surrounded by Death. Join us as we tackle the world of indie comics. Click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, and connect with us every other Wednesday as we interview indie creators live on the air, and you can join us in the chat. Also check out our bi-weekly indie comic book reviews. I hope to see you guys there.
Keith told me that would be a commercial for his show. That's more like an intro. Hey guys, this is Indie Comics. This is not Indie Comics Relay, Keith. Keith Gleason, you are lucky that you have Mighty Mascots at Alterna and that you are a good friend. All right, next person on here. Welcome to Comic Book Radio, Mike Jimmy. What's up?
Hey, I actually have a question because I've been starting to make my own publishing company from the Netherlands, and we have been going pretty successful for the past 3 years.
Oh, congrats.
10 publications so far, etc. Got a new one coming up on June 11th, Love and Korra 4. So we got several series running and all, but what is your biggest suggestion when it comes to getting your books into local comic book stores?
Man. Reach out to stores directly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I've been trying with a couple, and I go by and show them the stuff, and they're like really interested, and they're like, okay, send me an email and I can, make an order, and then they never fucking reply again.
Yeah.
So
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, no, that's
the
the
same
point.
crap that happened to me and still happens to me.
Yeah,
that's why I tell you that, because also what's going to happen is when you reach out to them, especially before you even entertain the idea of distribution. I did this a long time ago. They all said, all of them that replied, well, once you get into distribution, we'll carry the book. So I thought, great. So then once we did get into distribution, I'm thinking 600 something stores out of like the two, no, at the time, actually, it was like, I think I contacted almost 3,000 stores when there were that many. Now there's maybe like 2,000. 600 out of the 3,000 said they're going to carry books. I'm like, we're set. This is going to be great. Okay, so let's get into distribution, and then I'll touch base and let them know again. Yeah. You know how many end up carrying the book? I think like 100. 90 to 100 of the 600.
That's probably around the number of comic book stores we have in this country. So that's still a lot to me.
Yeah, and the thing is though and I get kind of where you're coming from too, because of the fact that you are over in the Netherlands. So shipping isn't necessarily going to be your best friend for you or your customers. So you do want to get into stores and find a distributor and that kind of a thing. But I mean, at the same time, it's very difficult to get books into even independent retail, because you are going to have exactly the experience that you did have. And then it's a double-edged sword, because then if you follow up and you kind of, are a little bit persistent with it, they get pissed off about that. And they'll either ghost you or they'll tell you off. I had a retailer that signed up for our newsletter and that was pissed off that we were sending newsletters once a month.
Oh, God.
Like, they said, look, you're obviously just sending these to the customers and this and that. I'm like, you signed up for the newsletter. This is just a company newsletter. I was like, if you want to unsubscribe, you can unsubscribe, but this is the only way we're going to stay in touch. It's once a month.
Yeah.
That they didn't like that. And then you get ones that if you don't stay in touch and you kind of are relaxed with it and you leave the ball in their court, They'll never talk to you. You'll never hear from them again. So it's like this weird, what do you do? How does this work out? And then if you get into distribution, if your experience is like mine or many other publishers that have had this experience out there, you're going to realize you're only going to get into 10 to 15% of the stores that the distributor deals with, because most of them don't even order outside the past top 10 publishers. Very few of them order consistently, even beside that point, once they start ordering from an indie publisher. Like we would have stores all the time that, they order like 30 or 40 of number one. They'd send me emails. Oh man, I can't believe we sold out of the 30 that we had ordered. We sold out within the first week. I can't wait for the next issue. We're going to order 10 of them. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you just told me you ordered 30 of number one and you're going to order 10 of number two. Like, you think 20 people are just not going to want to read number two? And it'd be like a 3-issue miniseries.
Yeah.
So this is the whole business. I would say steer clear of really sinking your time and money and effort into trying to get into stores, because you're going to have to offer them a 50 to 60% discount, and they're going to want you to pretty much cover shipping. There's going to be very few of them that want to pay for shipping. There's going to be some of them that just flat out don't even want to pay at all. They want like some kind of a net 10, net 14, net 30 term so that they'll pay afterwards. And there's going to be many that want to do consignment only. So they'll only contact you. And this is like the death blow, I think, for so many different creators out there. They'll only contact you when a copy sells. When we first started with Alterna, I worked with about 50 or 60 retailers on consignment with our print on demand books. Mm-hmm. Half of when it came, like we would check up in 6 months to see about the sales. Half of those shops 6 months later closed. Oof. So about 20 to 25 shops closed, and it was impossible to get a hold of them. They just completely went AWOL. And then the other half, I'd say that maybe half of that half, so a quarter of the retailers actually ended up paying us for what sold. And then the rest of them told us stuff sold, but didn't pay us. And then whatever we wanted left over sent back to us, they didn't apparently have them anymore. They couldn't find them. So it was, everything about it was the worst experience. So if you're going through, yeah. So I would recommend, seriously, just consider focusing primarily directly on dealing with your customer. It sounds like what you're doing is already working for you. So if it becomes, if you guys are doing good with what you're doing, keep doing more of it. And focus on ways to reward who's already with you, and they will then in turn help you spread the word as well. If you start focusing more on trying to get this audience that's not there yet, instead of growing the one that you already have, and then it will grow organically. If you focus more on this inorganic growth, which is kind of what we were trying to do very early on, and that it didn't work at all. If we kept doing what we were doing that worked, which was direct to customers through websites and conventions and signings and this and that, and a couple of the retailers that would actually be good with us. If we focused more on that, we'd be in a much better position today than we are now. So, and especially with the advent now, you have crowdfunding and all these other things. The internet is it's who doesn't buy something on the internet at this point? In 2005, it was still like, I don't know. But now forget it. Most people do tons of shopping on internet sites and stuff. So get your web store set up. If you don't have one, do that.
I got one.
Yeah, there you go. Do you sell it all even on like something like an eBay or anything like that? That's a slightly larger platform.
No, I don't sell on eBay. We have a local, we have a Dutch variant kind of Amazon where I started retailing, but like nothing is coming out of it. And it's coming through my website. It's coming through crowdfunders, which are growing really, organically and easily. And without in 2019, we started with conventions, and at the first one we made 26 euros, and at the end we made 500. And people were coming back and asking for more stuff. So we were growing really well, really organically, and then 2020 hit. We all know how that went. So that was mainly the biggest blow. So that's why I considered going into distribution. But with your stories, I can actually believe that, that's
If you've got, and this is the thing that they say, not just about comics, but about a lot of other businesses too. The best way to make $1 million in comics, start out with 2 million. And it's just, that's the kind of thing where, if you're not putting in that equity and that time and building up and building up and building up, and then maybe 10 or 20 years, you'll have that success. You'll have reached a point where you can legitimately make a living, make it a whole career, a whole job permanently. The whole thing of a lot of people, they get into the industry, they get into any industry, any business, and then they start thinking, well, as long as we make a big splash, if we just make a lot of, noise and put a lot of stuff out and, put a ton of marketing, and then all this stuff, it's a field of dreams kind of bullshit thing.
Yes.
And no, that's a great way for you to completely bankrupt yourself within 6 months.
Exactly.
And then you run away, screaming. And you're just like telling everyone along the way, run away, don't get into comics. Oh my God. But it's because
that was never our intention. Like we I started very realistically. Like, we first got to have a product. We first got to start on things. We're gonna make a website, and
good.
Once we have like a couple of things that we can actually sell, we start on going to cons, which we did. We're starting to get successful at,
Good.
and
do you have a newsletter?
We got a newsletter. I am not consequent enough on it.
Okay. That's going to be your best tool to stay in touch with when you have like sales, promotions, a new crowdfunder, a new book, whatever it may be. That's going to be the best way, better than any social media, better than even doing like a YouTube kind of a thing. All the other stuff is supplemental. And you should grow as much of it as you want, and as much of it that you find that works for you. If you find that like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you're doing whatever, let's say, but Instagram works best for you. You get the most engagement there. You get the most whatever. You have the best experience, and you can put more time into it and grow it. Do that. And who cares about Facebook, Twitter? I'm off of Facebook at this point. Facebook was nothing but a time drain and a waste. And I'm sure one day I'll feel the same way about Twitter or Instagram or whatever else. Or maybe even YouTube one day I'll feel that way. But I'll never feel that way, though, about the website that we've built, the store that we have, and the newsletter that we have. All of that stuff is a positive. It's always going to grow. It's always going to continue to be there and be a reliable source for not only you, but for the readers that are out there, too, that are interested in your stuff. Even though sometimes, like I said, you'll get the person every now and then, like I got that retailer that was like, why are you sending these? I'm like, you literally signed up for this. We didn't sign you up for it.
You dense motherfucker.
You're going to get some people that are just like, they don't understand things. I don't even know if that retailer is still around. Probably not. Then that's the other part, too, is that this is what I found. The biggest lesson over the past 12 years I found working with every retailer across the board, not just comic shops, but also the big ones. You are completely at their mercy, 100%. And anything you do or don't do is going to bite you in the ass in terms of how they want to do business with you. So when we went with newsstand distribution and we put newsstand books 2 months out after our comic shops would be getting them, the comic shops got pissed and said, well, why would we carry your stuff if newsstands are going to carry it? I was like, they're carrying it 2 months later. It actually feeds into the system because someone on the newsstand will see the book. And then now the new one is out at the comic shop and they can actually pick up this one, then go to the comic shop. And we've got ads directing them to the comic shop. And they would just get pissed, boycott the company, boycott the line just because we were out there in newsstand. I said, you don't carry Funko Pop? You don't carry anything else that's sold in other stores? Of course, there's no answer for that, right? It's all just this bullshit head game. The other thing, too, is that when those stores go out of business, there's another avenue of sale that you've lost. So you're depending upon these avenues of sale. And then also most of them are run by people that aren't selling anything. They're just sitting there with product on the shelf. And they're like, but the product is stocked. Well, are you the store owner? Are you running a newsletter? Are you getting people into the store? Are you doing anything other than just relying upon the publishers and the creators to drive customers into your shop with their product? What are you doing as a store owner to grow your business too? Because it should be going from the ground up, not necessarily always from the top bottom. So there's a lot of them that do great jobs with that. Most of them don't. And so once you get into the retail game, you start relying, your whole business becomes relying on other people to run their businesses properly. And if they don't, which is what's going on a lot in the comic industry right now, and this is kind of something a lot of people don't talk about because it's like, oh, you don't want to step on the toes of the retailer. I don't give a shit at this point. I'm so done with it. 12 years of this nonsense. 12 years of having to say, yup, it's always just our fault. You're right. You could do nothing better ever. Always just us. Okay. You know, are there things we could do better? Yes, absolutely. There's things all of us could do better, but all of us also includes the retailer too. And that's something that in the comic industry specifically, the retailer is like a sacred cow. You can't criticize them. You can't say nothing. Why? Because they have this kind of power of like, oh, well, we're the ones that stock the books. We're the tastemakers. We're the gatekeepers. Yeah, well, not anymore. We don't need you. You know, who is the actual tastemaker and the gatekeeper? The customer. Always the customer. Always the reader. Sorry. I get very passionate about it.
No, that's a good thing. No worries, man.
So to see someone like yourself, where I see myself in you, I see myself in all the different people out there. When you're saying, yeah, we're starting out, it's going good, like we're doing all these good things, and then it's like, I want to get into retail, I want to get into distribution, and I'm like, no, little Pete, no, don't do it.
No, that's why I wanted to tip. Like, from someone who's done it a lot longer, this is very valuable information. You know, so thank you very much.
Continue to sink all your time, your resources, your energy into focusing on who's there for you, who is supporting you right now, and get those people psyched about your stuff. The more you get them excited, the more you get them invested in who you are and what the books you're making and everything else, your team's on board, all this good stuff, the more that you're going to have those returns that you're going to look back and go, you know what, retail, who the hell needs them? Because they need to bring value to us. They need to be showing us that they are worth that 50 or 60% discount. It isn't a charity. It isn't like, hey, you know what? I'm a nice guy. I just want to give you half off of my stuff just because. It's the craziest thing in the world. But the whole comic industry at this point treats the business like it's a freaking charity. And it is so frustrating to see that. If everybody just treated it as if, you know what, we got to bring value to earn this discount, and the value we bring is customers, that we can bring in customers that you couldn't just reach willy-nilly all over the place. But meanwhile, time and time again, people are showing that they can actually curate, maintain, and grow a customer base directly, easier than going through distribution and selling through a distributor who's supposed to actually do all of that stuff for you. Distributors don't want to grow the footprint of where they sell. Retailers don't want to grow their customer base. And most of them, honestly, it's a fan shop. They're just putting it there to be surrounded by comics and just kind of have the museum of me, essentially, as opposed to a store where there's all of these products. Like, you know, this is where I live. This is my stuff. I want my stuff here. I bought it so I can have it around me. If I'm running this as a store, you bet your ass I want all these things to sell and go away.
Exactly.
Same thing with all the comics that are in the boxes that we ship and pack, and I sell hundreds to thousands of them every single week. Same thing. I want them all gone. I love them, but they need to leave. It's like kids when they're 18. You know, you love them, but you need to go. So it's
I'll
that
give you
kind
5
of
years,
thing. Yeah. You know, it's that kind of a thing where you want to make sure that they get out into the world, and then they go and they live their life somewhere else, and they have a nice, happy life in someone else's house. But the stuff doesn't stay here. But there's a lot of stores that they run it like that, where it's treated as if like, no, this is just like this whole museum I built. And then they tank, and then they go, well, you know, that's just the industry. No, it's not. That's just the way you ran your business, because you didn't want to sell stuff. You just wanted to be surrounded by it. And the thing is, I want to sell stuff. Everyone that makes comics wants to sell these comics. It's up to the retailers to sell them. And they're not salesmen. They are retailers more than they are retailers. And I'm sorry to be brutal about it today, but that's the thing, is that it's every single time I see someone like yourself, I'm like, no. You know, you ever see Billy Madison?
No.
Okay, well, there's a part in Billy Madison. It's an Adam Sandler movie. I think it was one of his first, where he goes to high school. He's the whole premise. You're going to be like, why is he in high school? Well, he goes to high school. He comes back. He tells these little kids that he used to be in school with, and it's a very, I can't explain the whole plot, but he comes back. He shakes this little kid who's like, I'm so excited to go to high school and all this other stuff. And he's this dorky little kid. And Billy's just like, no, what did you say? Stay here. Stay here as long as you can. And that's what it's like for me whenever I see someone that's going towards this direction of, oh man, we're doing all these things, we're growing, we're getting good, we're building up our direct sales, all this other stuff. I want to go to retail. I feel like that whole stay here, don't go. It's that thing of like, stay a kid, be here as long as you can, because the world sucks and is brutal, and high school is awful and will treat you like crap. It is like distribution is awful. It'll treat you like crap. It'll make you hate doing what you love to do. So, that's the, long story short.
Thank you. No, seriously, thank you. That was very invaluable information.
But keep growing, man. I'm excited to hear that you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks.
Good.
I'm really proud of what we're doing. I got an awesome team going. We got more comics coming as well. Like, we're currently working on 3 series. The next one, crowdfunder, coming in only a couple of days, where I'm doing the inking and penciling myself. So, like, yeah, it's a busy time, but I got
it's
the
good,
time. So
honest work.
Exactly, like you work the work and you get it done.
Yeah, it's like you plow the field all day and then you get the harvest, and you're like, yeah, it's a good job done. Could you have a factory farm and make it all make the big bucks and have a big company and whatever, and who gives a crap? It's all maybe one day, maybe not, hopefully maybe not, because at that point in time, as you keep growing, you don't necessarily need to be so hands off, and so it's all away from you. You want to still always have a piece of you in there. But keep it up, man. Keep it up. You're doing good, and keep doing exactly what you're doing. Don't worry about the retail game and whatnot. All right, man. Take it easy, and good talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll stick around in the chat.
All right, sounds good. You too. All right. Let's go right to our next guest, and that would be one Ashen Jackal. What's up, Ashen?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
All right. So I've been working on a comic book for like a long time now, probably 3 years. And I'm getting into the phase where I'm getting ready to bring it out finally. And I was wanting to do like a little bit of a world premiere here.
Okay,
so
great.
Would
put
you
your
mind?
Full screen?
Oh, no, I'm not going to
okay.
be showing anything off.
Okay.
So my comic is going to be sort of an interesting mix, because it's not necessarily a comic book. It is in the comic book format, but it has writing on the left-hand side and pictures, 3 different pictures on the right-hand side to talk about, to show what is happening in different sections of the text. So what I wanted to do here was not premiere any pictures necessarily, but I was hoping to read a bit of it and just get your take on it, if you think it sounds pretty good so far or not.
Okay, if you want to do that, yeah, we could do that.
All right. So I'm not a professional reader, so excuse me if I flub or mess up. Generally, there would be 10,000 edits if I was going to be doing something like this. So, all right. It is 11:58 on a muggy Friday night. Frank walks down the sweltering city block, clad only in a blank tank top and dark gray sweatpants. His toned body is betrayed by his haggard demeanor. Frank's final destination is Leo's Liquor, a trip he takes often to help numb the ghosts of his past. When Frank arrives at the weather-beaten storefront, he tries the handle, but finds it is locked. Apparently, Leo has started closing up the shop. Unperturbed, Frank gingerly raps his palm against the store's glass window. After a moment, the door clicks and inches open, just wide enough for Leo's inquisitive eye to peek through. Hey, Frank, didn't think I'd be seeing you tonight. It's been one hell of a night. You got time for one more sale? The door quickly closes, and the sound of several chained locks being undone follows. The portly old man, Leo, swings open the door. "For you, Frankie, my boy, anything." Leo waves him in. The dingle of a small bell sounds as the door closes behind them. Frank has always found solace here, not just because of the soothing nectar, but rather the more primordial comfort that is found in a shop like this still existing. The bare wooden floors creak lightly as the two stroll past the antique shelves and approach the main counter. A radio quietly broadcasts in the background. "First, the eyeless murders in our suburb. Now people are vanishing at an alarming rate. Right in the heart of..." It fades off. Leo steps behind the counter. "Your usual, then?" "Actually, do you have something stronger?" "Stronger? Wow. Let me take a look around. Honestly, I was walking home from the VA when a car backfired. I was startled and accidentally shoved a mother holding her child. I knocked him down, Leo. Aside from the guilt, the police said that I might have charges pressed against me at some point, so something stronger, please." "I think I might have found something that can help you." Leo rummages under the counter and retrieves an unremarkable glass bottle. Is that the poison? Is that the bottle of poison?" Leo slides the bottle across the polished surface towards Frank. "No, it's a little something special I whipped up. You see, this world is a hopeless place. However, even in a city like this, things can change. I've discovered hope, but it isn't something it isn't something you can give. It's a personal choice, like the doorways you choose to enter." Frank picks up the bottle and stares through the translucent content. "Doorways? Do you mean that if I drink this, then I'll find hope too?" A jovial smile appears on Leo's old face. Who knows? But could it get any worse? Frank is at a loss.
Ashen,
pondering
I don't want to cut you off. How much longer do you have?
Last sentence.
Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Frank is at a loss, pondering this notion. He leaves the shop with Leo's mystery concoction. And that's it. That's my big debut for a public showing of the beginning of my story. What do you think of it so far?
Or what's the name of the story again?
Oh, I can't say just yet.
Oh, you can't say just yet. What's the overall plot of the story? How would you describe it?
It's difficult. It is a story that it subverts your expectations for where it's heading. So it sets up a concept and you think it might be going one way. And then as the reality of the situation unfolds, you find yourself in a situation that is something that is very unfamiliar and probably going to be a bit challenging for the readers. At least I hope so.
I mean, can you sell me the story? Can you sell it to me? I'm not just to me, but also to the people in the chat too. If this is going to be kind of like the debut in a way, you know, I want to make sure that it's a good debut.
Yeah. So we have Frank. You know, he's ex-military, and he deals with a lot of issues, suffers with a bit of PTSD and stuff like that. And unfortunately, he has made some bad choices in his life to where he's become reliant on alcohol and stuff. So he comes to this place where he's become a regular, and he knows Leo, who's his dealer for alcohol. And this night is different though, because Leo gives him something that he's never seen before, a mystery concoction that is going to potentially give him something like hope if he drinks it. Now, when he goes outside, he finds himself in the middle of the dark world, unable to deal with certain elements that are happening around him. And he does end up drinking it. But after he does, even though it does grant him a certain level of freedom, there is other effects of it too that may be leading him down a darker road. But will this darker road eventually bring him out to a salvation or a damnation? That's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. So it's kind of, to me, it's got almost like a Twilight Zone-y vibe to it. Is that correct?
It's a bit of a Twilight Zone-y vibe, but it's going to be very Grindhouse eventually.
Okay. All right. Man, it sounds like you definitely got to work on how to pitch it in a succinct way. Don't be afraid to throw in the fact too that even though you know that you're going to have the reader ultimately end up wherever else, don't be afraid to have that set up at least there for them.
Yeah, I was just more trying to get your opinion on the writing and stuff. If you thought it flowed well, or if you think that it still needs a bit of work, or if it was just me reading it poorly.
For me, that kind of stuff, it's usually like, I feel it's kind of wordy. I feel like it takes a little too much time getting to where it needs to get to. Other than that, though, I can't say that you didn't know how to write. I mean, you wrote it well. I just think it's one of those. It kind of there's points to it where you can say something in a more direct way. I think that would have just as much impact.
So you think streamlining it would be?
Yeah, I feel like it's dancing around it a bit. It's doing exactly like what I'm doing with you right now. It's dancing around the point that I'm trying to make. So I think it's that kind of thing where it's a little bit on that side. I think it could use like an edit or so in terms of going in there and just saying, all right, let me see how I could be a little more direct with some of this. And,
now, do you think that the text, the dialogue is a little too bouncing around, or do you think it's mostly just I describe things too in depth?
Well, it sounds like, and yeah, this is a good way too. King Katie Ice, it sounds more like a novel than a novella or a light novel. Yeah, it sounds more like you're setting up something that's very long form, as opposed to making sure that it hits you at a pace and with enough impact and emotion that you want to keep on reading to the next paragraph. You know, not just to the next page, but each paragraph, each interaction that occurs. I think that yeah, if you can do something like that, and don't hinge it so much about trying to necessarily fool the reader into this other state of whatever, because you're trying to subvert an expectation. Have more the mindset of you're going into it, treat it almost like you're on from the outside, and you're going in where this is the way the story is set up. This is how it's leading. This is the logical conclusion of each event. And then it takes a turn. So this way, it's more like you can go into that kind of story and think, okay, well, if this is me in that situation, if this is an event that's actually playing out, you don't necessarily have to have that whole, that getting too literary with it, because then that's where it turns into like this superfluous kind of wordiness. Yeah, you want to lead with Death Curse. You just almost said exactly what I was going to say. You want to lead with a hook and reel everyone in. I was going to say you want to lead with what's important. This way, everybody's already invested right off the bat.
Yeah, I just have a little bit of difficulty with it because this literally everything I did in this sets up the entire rest of the story. So I know that it may have seemed like a kind of like a simple and a bit superfluous of a conversation, but within it, everything in the entire story is set up. So that's why I was wondering if it was more of like a, setting up just speaking too much in detail, or if it was, because as far as the dialogue is concerned, I may be able to work on it a little bit, but there's a lot of important undertones to it that come into play later. So I wouldn't know how to get rid of that conversation, or cut it down to a point where,
when he goes in there, because he was literally telling the bartender that, right? Mm-hmm. That was dialogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be more like an inner thought that he has. I don't think that he would even say that out loud. It seems like a very awkward thing to tell someone when you're just like, give me something harder. you know, and it's because I think I killed someone or whoever.
No, I get what you're saying. At the same time, though, if he didn't mention it to the person who is his close friend, then he wouldn't have probably been given the drink that is special just for this occasion. So I don't know.
Well, he could easily say that like he's going through something insane right
so
now,
you're saying don't go into detail.
I'm at the end of being like
exactly.
It's again, it's more of that show don't tell. You know, talking about he did all this stuff. How does he feel the way he feels? Well, he won't talk about the event of what's making him feel this way. He's going to talk about how he feels. So he'll talk about the fact that he feels like he's at the end of his rope right now. You know,
so he just broader terms.
I just want to, being like, I just want to forget. I just want to go somewhere else. You know, just take me somewhere else.
That's a good idea.
Kind of
I appreciate that. I hadn't considered that before. So I can continue to have the other stuff integrated into the story, but as into the backstory. But at the same time, I don't have to have him spilling his guts out to his friend.
Yeah, because also he's not necessarily spilling his guts out to his friend, but he's also kind of spilling his guts out to the reader. So it's relaying that information. The story is communicating that information, and that information is basically that this guy is kind of like this oversharer, and he knows he did this awful, horrible thing, and you've kind of ruined some of the mystery in that kind of exposition, because now you're going, well, as a reader, I'm thinking the whole time, this guy's a piece of shit. I don't care what happens to him.
Well, he is at his lowest point, though.
But that's the thing, though, is that you want to keep that mystery flowing. You want to keep that, you don't want to make him right off the bat turn into someone where the reader's just like, I don't care about this guy. I don't care what he's going through. But if you have that mystery being relayed, that this guy, he comes in, he's just beside himself. He's just at his wit's end. He feels lost. He feels, and you can relay that, the emotion.
So less is more when it comes to setting up a characters like this.
Exactly. And that's actually what Subverting Expectations is all about. It's more about the emotion and the misdirection, as opposed to the event and telling someone something and then you actually tell them the other thing instead. So if you can get the reader to feel the emotion or the audience to feel the emotion, and then you turn the tables on them and have them feel the emotion in a different way, that's when Subverting the Expectations feels like, oh, that's a twist. That's the way the story went. I had no idea. And now your emotions are invested and involved. But if you're playing on the logic, then now you have suspension of disbelief is gone. The audience now frustrated, and they're thinking this is illogical. This doesn't make any sense. But if you invest in the emotion of it and you pull in that kind of feeling, then you can actually subvert expectations in a great way. And then it's actually, oh, that's interesting. And then that makes you feel something, and then it makes you think something. But you want to have the audience feel something first.
I get what you're saying, because people can relate to raw emotions better than they can specific emotions.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's all I got for you today, Pete.
All right. Well, keep it up, man. And again, if we do another comic book radio show in the future and you have time to come on and you do revise anything, please feel free to share it.
Now, this is the kind of critique that I like, because it helps me build. And since I'm getting closer to actually putting this book out, it's what I'm looking for. So you've done me a good favor here. I've talked to a bunch of people in the past, but I was never given this perspective, and that's the whole reason, you would go on something like this to cross-examine and have somebody else cross-examine and understand your situation, and then, help me understand, maybe a perspective I didn't view from how I was creating it. So
anytime you want to tell any story whatsoever, it's the emotion, the impact, the feeling should always be there first and foremost. Is how will this make the audience feel? Not what will make the audience think. What will they think about this? How will they react? Reaction is emotion, but the thinking part of, how will they piece this and this and this and this together? You want to make sure emotion is always the key with any story, with any creative work, honestly, with music, with film, with comics, with a book, whatever it may be. It's always about the emotional content, to paraphrase Bruce Lee, basically, in a way. That's what we need. We need emotional content. And that's the thing, is that if you start getting into minutia, which is a lot of creators, they do that. They get bogged down in the detail, the minutia, the relaying of information. And then the story becomes like this weird set of instructions. And the thing is, if you're reading instructions and then you get to like the last 2 instructions and they make no sense to the other bunch of instructions that you just followed, now you're going to be frustrated. And it's the same thing. If you start telling a story that's based solely in logic and just step by step kind of a, relay of information, now when they get to that last part and you have a twist, you get the whole audience going, this betrays everything that came before. There's no build up to it. It makes no sense whatsoever. And they're not emotionally invested. So all they're going to do now is be pissed off because of the fact that you didn't tell the story how it should have been told. But if you give them that emotion and it's constantly more about making them feel, then you can play a game at the end and do that turnaround and do that misdirection, and you can pull it off. And now, because they've been feeling emotionally for this character the whole time, you get them feeling emotionally in a different way that changes their gears based on events that occur. And now you can actually pull off a really entertaining story because now you have surprise. You don't have subvertation or anything like that. You have actually something that feels like, oh, I didn't see that coming. As opposed to like, this doesn't make any sense. You want to always have that surprise as opposed to that, we just pulled the carpet out from under you and look at you, you're on the floor. It feels like the writer or whoever it may be is trying to out clever the audience. And you never want to have that kind of game where you make it like, oh, well, that's when you get creators that go, well, you just didn't get what I was going for. You're just not smart enough. And you get that kind of elitism. And not saying that you're doing that, but I'm saying that you get, and I think we all know a bunch of creators that are like that, where they come across and that's how they play it. But that's because they're trying to relay logical steps and then put illogic at the last second and then say, well, the audience just didn't get it. It's like, no, it's because you didn't make them care. And that's why they don't get it. And that's why now they're frustrated. Because your storytelling expertise is lacking. So that's the kind of thing. Again, always lead with emotion, end with emotion, and you'll be fine.
Exactly. Yes. All right. Well, I'll take that to heart, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
All right. Well, I'll see you next time. Okay, Peter?
All right. Thank you so much, buddy. Good to hear from you. Good to see you too. And thank you for sharing that, man.
Have a good one.
It takes a lot of guts to share stuff like that.
Well, hey, I got him. So
all right,
I'm used to getting torn up, so it's not a big deal for me.
No problem at all. Well, I'm glad you did it. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll see you.
See ya. All righty. I think that's about it for today. I wanted to go a little bit, hour and a half or so. We were hour and 40 minutes. A couple of people, I'm sorry that the conversations ran longer with some people, and that's my fault, I guess, in some way too. I love talking to the people that come on the show, and then it's hard for me to let them go sometime. But thank you guys so much for stopping by today. It was a really good episode. I think a lot of important subjects were touched upon. And again, just everybody, if you're doing something, I think the moral of the whole episode of today was if you're doing something that works, stop trying to find a way to make it not work. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. And then if you're doing something that's not working and you're struggling around, whether it's how to connect with your audience, whether it's how to promote properly, whether it's how to convey a story properly that people will be invested in it, always make sure that you are being true to what it is that you are willing to convey, what it is that you want to convey to the audience. So if you're building up promotion, what's the means of why you want to build up this promotion? Oh, well, it's because I want to keep people informed. Oh, okay. Well, once you boil it down to that, something as simple as I just want to let people know what's going on. Well, then you can figure out what works best for that. If it's a story and you want people to be, I want them to feel scared or unsure or uneasy, convey that emotion. Make sure that emotion is being put into that story. So it's not as hard as you may think, but it's difficult because sometimes you have to answer the questions that you're asking yourself. But make sure that you take that step outside and you go, okay, if I wasn't me and I was asking someone else that was making this thing, what would I tell them? Because oftentimes it's difficult for us to, I think, take our own advice or give ourselves advice. But look at it as if this is a separate person that you're giving advice to. And then it's usually easier to relay that message to them. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll have feedback forum on June 2nd. that will be during the day, 1 o'clock Eastern. Shane, you had asked, and also John Phillips. I don't know if you're still watching. I saw some of your questions in the chat talking about if you could hand letter if it's black and white. There's John Phillips, and yes, you can. You can hand letter if it's black and white, and then as long as you scan it at least 600 DPI, then we can actually use it to print it. And you don't have to do the separating and this and that. If it's black and white, you don't have to separate files and layers and all that other nonsense that I hate doing. You hate doing. Everyone hates doing it. This is just the way you have to do it for newsprint. A lot of actual print publications, that's the way you got to do it, with the text separated from the art. But yeah, you can totally do that. Black and white, hand lettered, traditional lettering. That's perfectly fine. We just make the image black and white, grayscale it, and then that's it. Just prints with the black plate. Also, it looks like, hey, Death Curse there. Spencer says, I'm doing a big auction stream tonight on the Death Curse channel at 9 o'clock Eastern. Tonight, stop by and hang out, dudes. And speaking of auctions, too, on the Alterna Comics channel at, let me see. From, I believe we'll be doing probably noon to 4 or 1 to 4. I have to decide exactly when. I don't know if we should do it during the day or during night, but we'll be doing an auction on the Alterna channel on the 29th, Saturday. So next Saturday. And that's just Alterna creators with Alterna related art. We're trying to do the last Saturday of every month is an Alterna art auction. And we'll just have Alterna creators like Spencer, Rob Geronimo, Ryan Wynn, et cetera, et cetera. Whoever wants to join that's an Alterna creator, has Alterna art. We'll have it on the channel at that point. For auctions on my own channel, you guys have asked this before, I'm going to be doing one every 2 months. So we just did one, I think it was a couple weeks ago, that helped out with everything going on with Lovey, who's doing great, by the way. She's doing fantastic. Thank you guys so much again for helping out and supporting and spreading the word. We'll be doing that probably in July. We'll be doing another auction on this channel with a whole bunch of creators that can sell whatever it is that they got. And we'll be doing that probably over 2 days instead of like the one huge 9-hour day, essentially, that was last time. It was split up a little bit, but it was still very tiring. So we'll probably do like a Saturday, Sunday, and that kind of a thing in July. But other than that, that's it for us. And I'll be back again tomorrow. We've got Open Mic Monday. And then I'm trying to do more shows during the day, but it's tough trying to catch up with everything going on. But thank you guys either way for understanding. I tried to do something yesterday. That didn't work out. I needed all of yesterday to get a bunch of things done. But thank you guys for always tuning in whenever we are here. And, of course, everybody that joins the show, especially on a comic book radio or a feedback forum or an Open Mic Monday. Thank you guys so much for doing so. We really appreciate that you do that. And it takes guts to come up here and put your stuff out on the line and express your opinion on something and it's so sad nowadays too, expressing an opinion. People feel like, they really got to be brave about it. Man, oh man, it's so sad. But over here, we're always willing. I'm always willing to entertain any opinion, any topic about anything. Talk to you guys. The way you feel is the way you feel. That's great, and we can have a conversation. And it's been fantastic doing these shows. I'm glad you guys are enjoying them. So thank you again, and that's it for me. Everybody have a great rest of your Sunday, and see you again tomorrow. See you, everybody.